Hello. For this video, I will be summarizing what was covered in this semester's biology class. During these 16 weeks of class, we learned many different subjects and concepts. Some were very interesting and learning how everything connects together. I'll be condensing 100 pages and over 14,000 words into a 10 to 15 minute video. What is a cell? It is a structural, functional, and biological unit of an organism. What is cell theory? All living organisms are composed of cells. All cells arise from pre-existing cells, and the cell is the basic unit of life. Cells make up everything in our body that includes muscle, bones, organs, and even more. Even though cells vary, they share several common structures. The major structures found in most cells is ribosomes, which synthesize protein, DNA and RNA, genetic information, cytosol, which is the fluid that fills the cell, cytoplasm, composed of cytosol and internal structures of the cell, cell membrane that protects the cell from the environment. It is described like a fluid mosaic model, meaning it is flexible and made of many moving parts. DNA has two functions, carries our genetic information, and has the information to make proteins. The structure is a double helix versus RNA, which is a single strand. There are many different ways for DNA to be damaged: heat, excessive salt, pH changes, and genetic mutations. There are many causes for genetic mutation: radiation, which includes UV radiation and X-rays, chemicals, smoking or vaping, and lastly, infectious agents. There are many types of proteins: enzymes, which start and move chemical reactions and is not consumed during the reaction, and it is a catalyst. You have antibodies, that is a special type of protein that is part of our immune system and keeps us well. You have transport protein, which transport proteins around, and recognition proteins, allows recognize the type of cell and will only match with the same protein. Prokaryotic does not have a membrane-bound nucleus or organelles. Eukaryotic contains a nucleus and organelles bound by a plasma membrane. The nucleus is the defining feature of eukaryotes. Nucleus is a dense region that houses DNA and allows the DNA to leak through the nuclear pores. Prokaryotes do not have a true nucleus. It has a nucleoid that the DNA is free-floating. Along with prokaryotes, does not have a membrane-bound organelles, while eukaryotic are bound by plasma membrane. All cells require energy. There are two different ways to get food. An organism can produce their own food, also known as an autotroph, or an organism can consume for their food, or known as a heterotroph. Autotrophs use photosynthesis. It is a process by which green plants and some other organisms use sunlight to create food from carbon dioxide, water, and visible light. CO2 is absorbed through the pores called stomatas, which are on the underside of the leaves, that allow carbon dioxide to enter and oxygen to leave. Photosynthesis occurs in two stages: the light reaction, which occurs in the thylakoid or grana, and the carbon reaction, or the Calvin cycle. Some do use chemosynthesis, the process by which plants use chemicals to create their food. Cellular respiration, the process that converts food energy to a form the cell can use for work. The energy used is ATP, or adenosine triphosphate. Heterotrophs consumes for food and is unable to produce their own food. We as humans are heterotrophs, since we cannot produce our own food and must go out and acquire the food we need. Now with the energy cells have, there are different types of energy: potential energy and kinetic energy. Potential energy is stored energy, ready to work in relative position or gravitational pull. Kinetic energy is energy of motion. Any moving object has kinetic energy. An example is photons. All chemical reactions that sustain life rely on collisions between moving molecules. Chemical bonds store potential energy, and when those bonds break, the energy becomes kinetic and powers the cellular processes. Organisms need to be able to create offspring. There are two ways for an organism to create an offspring: sexual reproduction and asexual reproduction. Sexual reproduction requires two parents, and their offsprings are diverse. They have sex cells, also known as gametes. Male gamete is the sperm, the female gamete is the egg. When the egg is fertilized with the sperm, it becomes a zygote. It is a slow process, thus its reproduction has less offsprings. They reproduce via meiosis, the division of sex cells. Asexual reproduction only has one parent and they have no diversity. Asexual reproduction is quick, thus allowing many offsprings. They reproduce via mitosis, the division of somatic cells, or all the other cells in the body. There are different types of asexual reproductions. Binary fusion, where the parent splits into two and occurs in prokaryotes such as bacteria. It has its DNA, makes a copy of its own DNA, splits, new copies are created. Cell splits into two identical daughter cells. There's budding, which tiny buds develop on the organism's body and grow into another organism, as in yeast, hydras, and sponges. There's spores, they detach and the wind carries them. Fungi and ferns produce spores. Then there's vegetative reproduction. New plants grow from stems, roots, or leaves, such as potatoes. There are different parts of a stem. The node, which is the point which leaves attach, and then the internode, the area between the different nodes. Plants have 17 required elements. The most abundant and essential elements are carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen. Pollination is the sexual reproduction in plants. It is the act of transferring pollen grains from the male anther of a flower to the female stigma. Pollen from the plant stigma sticks to the body of a pollinator. After pollination and fertilization, angiosperm flowers develop into fruit. Plants also have three main tissue systems. The ground tissue, which makes up majority of the plant body and is important sites of photosynthesis, respiration, and storage. The dermal tissue, which covers leaves, stems, and roots. And lastly, the vascular tissue, helps transport water and minerals. There are also external stimuli to help plants grow. Tropism, growth or turning movements in response to stimuli. Phototropism, grow towards or away from light, regulated by auxins. Gravitropism, directional growth in response to gravity. And thigmotropic, directional response to touch. Crop rotation is a farming technique that alternates planting nitrogen-hungry plants like corn and cotton with planting legumes. There are other ways to convert nitrogen, also called nitrogen fixation. There are nitrogen-fixing bacteria in plant nodes. Those can be from lightning because the energy produced by lightning splits nitrogen gas in the atmosphere, allowing it to react with oxygen. And last is industrial processes. One of the most interesting topics from this semester was population and ecology. It explores how organisms interact with each other and their environment, from individual to the entire biosphere. Ecosystems are constantly changing due to natural events and human activity, something that we have seen more and more of over the last handful of decades. How did I study this year? Well, this year I tried something different. I would put the reviews and put them into one document along with anything that was put on the board or that was mentioned would be on the test. I would study those as I'd put them in the document, and then leading up to the test I would study, and the morning of. I'd say it helped me out with some of the key words and would stick out while reading the test, but it was not a very effective method for me this year. Thank you for watching. It was a fun semester, and trying to summarize the major concepts from this semester was an interesting challenge. I hope that this video flows well. Biology is full of connections, and understanding them makes the subject even more exciting and makes understanding life and how we got here even more interesting the more and more I learned.
You can't keep getting away with it!